lastly, we'll discuss what plate tectonics did to create this beautiful scene that you see today. So first off, I would like all of you to close your eyes and picture the planet Earth as you would see it from space. You can see the circular planet, stars twinkling in the background, and white clouds swirling in the atmosphere. And underneath of those clouds, you can see the continents, you can see the land. But something's not quite right. Rather than being where you learned it to be in elementary school on a map, all of the land is squished together in a giant mass in the center of the planet. Now, if you open your eyes, you will see the landmass commonly referred to as Pangaea or Pangaea, depending on where you're from and how you speak. Now, Pangaea was a theory proposed by German scientists by the name of Alfred Wagner in the early 1900s. So essentially what happened is one day, Mr. Wagner was looking at a map similar to this one, right? The map we all know and love, where everything's where it's supposed to be. And he noticed that the continents almost look like giant puzzle pieces. I mean, it looks as if you could pick up South America and squish it right here onto the coast of Africa and it would fit. So that's exactly what he did. He picked up the continents and squished them around and came up with this map of Pangaea. Now this is essentially a guide for his theory of what's called Continental Drift. So essentially what Alfred Wagner's saying is at one point the continents were all together like this. And then over the course of hundreds of millions of years, they separated to where we know them to be now. Now, Alfred Wagner, being a man of science, understood you can't say it looks like a puzzle and call it a fact. So he did more research, and he came up with 3 other evidences for this theory of continental drift. So first off, what he did was he checked the fossil record, and he found that there's a shallow water dinosaur by the name of the Mesosaur that can only be found here on the tip of South America, and here in Africa. That's the only 2 places on the planet you can find this shallow water dinosaur. So Alfred Wagner's thinking, did it fly? Did it swim? No, the land was once together, a lake formed, dinosaur lived, dinosaur died, fossilized, and the continents separated. Now next what he did is he tracked the mountain ranges, and he found that the mountain ranges here in the Northern American continent, and up in these little islands over here in Greenland, line up perfectly with those in Northern Europe. And then he took it a step farther and he actually tested the rocks. And he found that the rocks in these 2 mountain ranges are exactly the same. They're the same age, same composition, same rocks, but halfway across the planet from each other. Now at this point, Alfred Wagner's thinking he's got a pretty solid case. He's got a lot of good evidence. He's got some research. So he decides to write a book in 1915 to pitch his idea to the scientific community. Maybe garner more interest and get some more money for research. Now what do you think they did? Exactly! Thumbs down, big X, kicked him out. They thought he was a nutcase because he couldn't tell them why. So even though he had all of this evidence that something was going on here, he could not provide a mechanism that seemed large enough to move the continents. So they didn't believe him. They essentially exiled him from the scientific community and he froze to death in Greenland. Now, he was also a meteorologist, so that was unrelated, but nonetheless, he never got to see his research come to fruition. Now, if you fast forward 50, 60, 70 years to modern times, we recognize the theory of continental drift as a legitimate scientific idea. Alfred Wagner is viewed as one of the founding fathers of the science of geology, and he's recognized as one of the main contributors to everything we understand nowadays about rocks and how our planets form. And that's because technology has advanced. In the early 1900s, we didn't have the technology we have nowadays. We didn't have sonar technology. We couldn't send a beep down to the ocean floor and track mountain ranges there. We didn't understand. But now that we have this technology and we have the ability to research this, we found that Alfred Wagner was pretty spot on. And he is now recognized. This is actually taught in your public elementary schools. It is legitimate. So even though he never got to see it, it did happen. And that's a really important fact about science. That's how it works, is you build upon the foundation laid by those who came before. We're constantly researching things further because that's how we find the truth. Now, this map here is one you may not be too familiar with. This is a map of what's called the tectonic plates. I'll bring it over here so you guys can see it a little bit more. I'll walk around. Now, the blue